Now, listen. Do you know that the Egypt we read about in the Old Testament, when we compare it to the era of grace today, that Egypt now was your sin before coming to Jesus. That Egypt now was your fornication, was your gossip, was your hate, was your slander, was your witchcraft that the Lord delivered you from. But then along the way, as you're walking with God, you begin to compare your present life with Him with the old you. You begin to miss the person that you were before coming to Jesus. You begin to miss that old you that you were before coming to Jesus. This is where most of the Christians fall from. And that is found in 2 Peter 2, verses 22, that says, "Now the dog eats back its vomits." You also remember in the Old Testament when they reached in the wilderness after God having delivered them from Egypt, they began to worship other gods. They began they began to disobey the commandments of God and disbelieve. They began to say, "Oh, we are hungry and thirsty. We wish we could go back to Egypt and eat the fish." Remember, if you actually read the Old Testament story. Now, that is you and me today. When you see that you are having challenges today, you begin to remember the kind of money that you are making out of fornication, out of having many men. You begin to remember the kind of money that you had out of corruption. You begin to remember the things you had out of sin. And you're like, "I just want to go back and test a little." And that is where you fall back into sin. Don't you realize that when God gives you liberty, you have to continue walking in that liberty, in that purity, in that righteousness? Do not go back to your vomits. Do you also remember that God actually killed in His anger most of them in the wilderness? They died in the wilderness. God opened the earth and He swallowed them up. This is what happens today. When you're walking with Jesus Christ, we see this in Romans 1:18, that God is so displeased with